For this banner, we have 2 new 6 stars and 1 5 star. The 5 star for this banner is in the same archetype as Myrtle, and that's Elysium. Elysium is really good, and even though he's in the same archetype as Myrtle, he doesn't fully fulfill the same role. The first time they use their skill 1, they'll be able to activate it at the same time. Myrtle gains 14 cost, while Elysium gets 18 cost. For the 2 succeeding activations though, Myrtle will beat Elysium because the skill points required to launch her skill is lower by 4. So she will get DP a bit faster, and this isn't a problem since Elysium isn't used as a replacement for Myrtle. He can be used side by side with her if you really wanted to double DP spam, but in my opinion, Elysium's second skill is better. Although this is a very expensive skill which will take 14 seconds to proc when maxed, it regenerates 20 DP and slows down 4 enemies while reducing their defense. Enemies with stealth will also become visible. Why is this such a good skill? It's because Elysium is built as a sniper support. That's his entire kit. Most snipers will have a hard time against defense, especially single target snipers, and this is because of how attack speed is calculated in proportion to defense. Slowing down enemies and reducing their defense effectively gives your snipers more DPS. Elysium's talent also reduces the cost of all snipers by 2 deployment points. Imagine that, your snipers will be cheaper by 2 deployment costs. It's possible to get an XUSI with 10 deployment costs, imagine that. This is also why it's insanely good. Because it will make all your snipers cheaper to deploy. He can also grant them up to a 23% attack speed bonus, which is really good for a DPS based operator. Along with Bagpipe, he's one of the operators which makes me love the Vanguard archetype so much. Weedy is the 6 star for this banner, and she's a push specialist like Feater. What's really good about her is her skill 2, but we'll go over that later. For her skill 1, it's essentially the same as Featers, so her skill 1 will stun, whilst Feater's skill 1 will slow the enemy down. So for me, there isn't too big of a difference. The biggest difference is that you can use the stun, and it works better for the heavy operators for the attack cancelling. You can pair this up with something like a Project Red, but it's pretty much the same thing in my opinion. The skill 2, however, is very different. It's a very exciting skill, and after charging up 70 skill points, Weedy will gain 2 tiles. So she already has 2 initial tiles, which is normal for the push specialist. She'll gain another 2 tiles, which gives her a total of 4 tiles. Her attack will also increase by 200%, but the attack interval is reduced significantly. Like, she attacks really slowly. This lasts forever. It's an infinite duration skill like Lapland skill 1. And the thing that's good about this is you can do so many things with this. Even though it's a good standalone skill, you can use her behind F-Eater or a defender, or you can even do something like a defender and then Blaze behind the defender and then Weedy behind the defender. This push is only medium force, so it's not very strong versus heavy enemies, but keep in mind that changing her auto attack into a push means she cancels attacks from every enemy very often. So this will become splash damage. She'll hit multiple enemies from now on, so it's not limited to the enemy she blocks. So she's kind of a pseudo guard with this skill. She's able to deal 2000 plus damage to a crowd. That's her base attack with the skill activated. It's 2000 plus, and if you're dealing with more than 3 enemies at a time, she'll actually out DPS Blaze, and since her auto attacks are medium push, she can push away casters and spiders, which is really beneficial for your team. Her skill 3 is also very strong. It's a 4 tile push which deals 350 magic damage and deals additional damage based on the distance moved. This is really good because you can use this skill with her water cannon. Water cannon is the talent she has. She's able to deploy a 20-second water cannon which will be able to replicate this particular skill. So imagine dealing 70% magic damage to a wave twice. So what this means is, since it's huge. The force for this skill is huge. So imagine two huge pushes, and then the ability from this skill, which is the more distance you move, the more damage you take. So you can push enemies up to 8 or more tiles away from you, and they almost always die if they aren't anything special like a Patriot or something. Most of them will die from this combo, and it's really good combo considering the amount of push force you get from the two pushers. Overall, she's a pretty good unit, and I recommend everyone to build her. W is a limited operator for this banner, and she's a 6-star AoE sniper who deals a really good amount of damage, especially to crowds. Her talent gives her 60% physical and magic evasion, as well as debuffing enemies within range who are stunned. All her skills are really good, so we'll go over them really briefly. Skill 1 fires a grenade every 16 skill points, and this deals 350% physical attack damage and stuns the target for 3 seconds. This is a manual trigger, so you can use it to reset her auto attack, and her skill 2 is my favorite. Skill 2 will allow you to bury a landmine every 8 skill points. When an enemy steps on it, W deals 280 physical damage to all enemies nearby and stuns them for 2.2 seconds. Keep in mind that she can bury multiple landmines, and this is the best skill for consistent DPS. Her third skill is a manual trigger, which plants bomb on the 4 highest HP enemies. The bombs will explode, dealing 310% physical damage and stunning the enemies for 5 seconds. This is still an AoE, so you can already imagine the amount of damage a cluster of enemies receiving over 1000% of Weedy's attack as AoE damage, as well as a 5-second stun. You can already imagine how much that will hurt the enemy. Keep in mind that W's DPS is already the best out of any of the AoE snipers in the game. For the Mist and Wild banner, we have two really cool 5 stars, and let's talk about Asbestos first. Asbestos is an arts defender, and her stats are really bad compared to regular defenders. But arts defenders can deal arts damage when their skills are active. So this really helps Asbestos reduce the amount of pressure for the team, and she also gains up to 3 skill points every time she receives magic damage from an enemy. So if you are smart with your deployment order, you can make her tank all the magic damage from the enemy. This, coupled with her magic resist, can also make her a very annoying skill point battery. Her skill 1 blocks the first source of magic damage and increases the magic resist she has, so it's an arts version of the skill 1 for Lisk Arm. Her second skill is what she is known for. At Mastery 1, Asbestos gains a unique 7-tile range, and her attack and defense are significantly increased. Her attack also becomes splash damage. This skill can last up to 50 seconds, and because she's an arts guard, she will deal arts damage when her skill is activated. So she also has a really good base attack for a defender. I think it's only second to Vulcan for the 5 stars, and her shield is also just the door with a freaking GoPro attached to the top for some reason, so that's a really cool plus for me. The other 5 star is Tsukinogi. Her skill 1 is a manual trigger that grants physical and magic evasion to allies in range, and this can be a really annoying combo if you use it correctly. For example, you can stack this with Manticore and Neon. Manticore already has a really good amount of evasion, and Neon will give her allies +1 block with her skill 3 activated. So this is a very strong threat. For example, you can use this to stall a high threat opponent. This won't kill them for sure, since Manticore doesn't really do that much damage, but you'll be able to stall them for over 30 seconds, and that's enough time for your Seobi or your Aegle or something else to recharge their skill points. Skill 2 is another manual trigger which heals allies by 12% of Tsukinogi's attack every second. This also significantly increases the damage reduction passive Tsukinogi has, and overall, she is a very good unit to have, but most people who pull for the Mist and Wild banner usually aim for Asbestos.